So here is a question for you. What happens when car companies get bored, desperate, or just plain creative with pickup trucks? Well, they end up building some of the strangest, most bizarre vehicles the world has ever seen. We are talking about trucks with seats in the bed, trucks with Lamborghini engines, convertible trucks, and even a pickup designed to carry a personal submarine. Today, we are counting down 25 of the strangest pickup trucks of all time, trucks that most people have completely forgotten even existed. If you enjoy deep dives into automotive oddities, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Let us get into it. Number 25. The Volkswagen Type 2 Transporter Single Cab. Most people know the VW Type 2 as the iconic hippie bus, flower power, Woodstock, all that. But what a lot of people do not realize is that Volkswagen also made a pickup version of it, and this is where things get weird. See, the Type 2 had its engine mounted in the rear, right where the bed needed to be. So Volkswagen's solution was to raise the entire bed up above the engine. The result was a truck with a hilariously shallow cargo area sitting way up high, like a stage platform on wheels. To compensate for the limited depth, all three bed walls could fold down like tailgates, which actually made loading and unloading pretty clever. VW sold the single cab version in the U.S. from 1950 to 1967, and after that, the chicken tax on imported trucks essentially killed it for the American market. Today, a clean one is absurdly rare. Most people who see one have no idea what they are looking at. Number 24. The Dodge D100, the Dude. In August of 1969, Dodge decided that what the pickup truck market really needed was a truck called the Dude. Yes, seriously. The name came from a collaboration with actor Don Knotts, better known as Barney Fife from The Andy Griffith Show. The Dude was a special edition of the D100 that came with a wild body stripe decal in the shape of a big C running down the side, color-matched roof, dog dish hubcaps with trim rings, and Dodge Dude decals near the rear marker lamps. Under the hood, buyers could opt for anything from a modest six-cylinder all the way up to Dodge's thundering 383 cubic inch big block V8. Despite the memorable name and the celebrity backing, the Dude flopped. Dodge only sold somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 units across 1970 and 1971 before quietly pulling the plug. Today, finding one is like finding a unicorn at a truck show. Number 23. The Ford Durango. Before Dodge turned Durango into one of the most recognizable SUV names on the planet, Ford used it first, and not on an SUV, on a coupe utility truck. In the late 1970s, Ford partnered with a company called National Coach Works to transform the humble Fairmont Futura into a car pickup hybrid. They kept the Fairmont's front end, chopped off the back, and grafted on a functional truck bed. The result looked like a ranchero had a baby with a compact sedan, and honestly, it was kind of charming in a weird way. But here is the thing. Somewhere between 200 and 350 units were ever built between 1979 and 1982. That is it. The market shifted before most buyers even knew the Ford Durango existed. Today, it is one of Ford's most obscure production experiments, a genuine unicorn that even hardcore Ford enthusiasts rarely encounter. Number 22. The Mini Pickup. Take one of the most iconic small cars ever made, the original Mini, and turn it into a pickup truck. Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, the British Motor Corporation actually did it. Starting in 1961, they produced a Mini with a tiny little cargo bed where the rear seats used to be. And despite how absurd it sounds, they kept making them all the way until 1983, producing nearly 60,000 units. The Mini pickup used the same 848cc engine as the standard Mini, which meant it had about as much power as a lawnmower with ambition. But it was nimble, fuel-efficient, and surprisingly practical for small deliveries in tight British streets. Some owners of newer Minis have even followed suit, converting their modern cars into pickup trucks as a tribute. But the original remains one of the smallest, strangest production pickups ever made. Number 21. The Mazda Repu. Mazda has always been the mad scientist of the automotive world, and nowhere is that more evident than in the Repu. That stands for Rotary Engine Pickup, and yes, they actually put a Wankel rotary engine in a truck. Sold in North America from 1974 to 1977, the Repu was the only rotary-powered pickup ever mass-produced. The 1.3-liter twin-rotor engine was smooth, high-revving, and completely unconventional for a work vehicle. The advantages of the rotary were real. It was smaller and lighter than a traditional piston engine, and it produced decent power for its size. But the drawbacks were equally real. Fuel economy was terrible, the engine drank oil like it was going out of style, and most truck mechanics had absolutely no idea how to service it. Mazda sold a modest number of them before quietly dropping the model. Today, the Repu has become a genuine collector's item, with clean examples commanding serious money among rotary enthusiasts. Number 20. The Dodge Midnight Express. The late 1970s were a strange time for trucks. Manufacturers were slapping wild paint jobs, chrome stacks, and aggressive names on everything. And the Dodge Midnight Express might be the peak of that era. This truck rolled off the lot in a striking black paint job with gold pinstriping, custom wheels, chrome exhaust stacks poking up behind the cab, and a Midnight Express truck decal on the door. It was not subtle. Under the hood sat a 360 cubic inch V8, and the whole package was marketed as an adult toy. Yes, that was the actual marketing language. Only 270 were ever made in a single production year, making this one of the rarest trucks of the decade. The Midnight Express was basically the pickup truck equivalent of wearing a sequined jacket to a construction site. Impractical? Maybe. Unforgettable? Absolutely. Number 19. The Rinspeedtattoo.com. Swiss boutique automaker Rinspeed is not exactly a household name, but they have been responsible for some of the wildest concept vehicles ever created. And at the 2000 Geneva Motor Show, they unveiled the Tattoo.com. It was a bright orange, retro-styled pickup truck that looked like a rejected Hot Wheels car. But the truck itself was not even the strangest part. Mounted on the back was a miniature crane designed to carry what Rinspeed called BOB, short for Breathing Observation Bubble. It was essentially a motorized underwater scooter that supposedly allowed novice divers to go up to 30 feet underwater by keeping their head inside a sealed helmet attached to the vehicle, a personal submarine, on a pickup truck. Needless to say, having your head trapped inside a metal bucket on a heavy machine underwater was not exactly a recipe for safety. The Tattoo.com never made it past the concept stage, and honestly, that is probably for the best. Number 18. The Honda Spocket. In 1999, Honda showed up to the Tokyo Motor Show with something nobody expected, a sports car that was also a pickup truck. The Spocket looked like a sleek little coupe from the front. But walk around to the back, and there was a small cargo bed where you could theoretically toss sports gear or camping equipment. The bed could even be extended by folding the rear seats down, and the roof was removable for open-air driving. Under the hood was a hybrid gas-electric powertrain with full-time all-wheel drive, using a combustion engine for the front wheels and two small electric motors for the rear. On paper, it was ahead of its time. But after touring American car shows in 2000, Honda decided it would never be commercially viable. Only one prototype was ever built. The Spocket remains one of those fascinating what-if vehicles from an era when manufacturers were willing to dream big, even if those dreams never left the show floor. Number 17. The Chevrolet Love. In the early 1970s, Chevrolet needed a compact truck to compete with the flood of small Japanese imports hitting American shores. Their solution? Just rebadge someone else's truck. The Chevrolet LV, which stood for Light Utility Vehicle, was actually an Isuzu Faster wearing a bow tie badge. Sold from 1972 to 1980, it was one of the earliest examples of badge engineering in the truck world. The LUV was small, fuel-efficient, and reasonably priced. It did pretty well during the fuel crisis, when Americans were desperate for anything that did not guzzle gas. But the truck had problems. Rust was a major issue. Power was modest at best. And once Chevrolet developed the S10 in the early 80s, the LUV became obsolete overnight. Today, finding a clean LUV is nearly impossible. Most of them rusted away decades ago, and the ones that survived are usually sitting in barns, waiting for someone to remember they exist. Number 16. The Chevrolet C10 Big Ten. General Motors has a long history of bending the rules, but the C10 Big Ten might be the most brazen example. In the late 1970s, strict emissions regulations applied to all vehicles weighing up to 6,000 pounds. GM's clever workaround? Add just enough structural reinforcement to the standard C10 pickup to push its curb weight above 6,200 pounds. This heavier weight meant the truck was classified as a 3/4-ton vehicle by the EPA, and 3/4-ton trucks did not require catalytic converters. So the Big Ten was essentially a half-ton truck disguised as a heavy-duty model purely to dodge emissions laws. The exhaust was unrestricted, which meant the engine breathed easier and produced a bit more power than its smog-choked siblings. It was a loophole on wheels. Regulators eventually caught on, of course, but for a brief window, the Big Ten was the truck for buyers who wanted a little more freedom under the hood. Number 15. The Jeep J10 Honcho. In the 1970s, special edition trucks were all about loud names and louder paint jobs, and the Jeep J10 Honcho might have been the loudest of them all. This was a half-ton, full-size pickup marketed with ads calling it macho, tough, brawny, and powerful. The color scheme was absolutely wild, with bold stripes that screamed for attention from every passerby. Under the skin, it used Cherokee's Dana 44 axles with white wagon-style wheels, massive 31-inch tires, a roll bar, and a front brush bar. Power came from a 401 cubic-inch V8 engine. Only about 1,500 were made, and here is the sad part. After 4 decades, most surviving examples have serious rust issues. The original stripes and decals are no longer manufactured, so owners face an impossible choice: let the fading graphics deteriorate naturally, or repaint and lose the originality forever. It is a truck that was born loud and is now slowly going quiet. Number 14. The Dodge Dakota Sport Convertible. In 1989, Dodge looked at their perfectly normal Dakota pickup and asked a question nobody else was asking. What if we cut the roof off? The Dakota Sport Convertible was exactly what it sounds like. A mid-size pickup truck with a removable soft top. It was inspired by the Southern California surf crowd, who apparently wanted to catch rays while hauling surfboards. American Sunroof Company handled the conversion, and buyers could choose from a range of engines, including a V8. With the top down, the truck looked bizarre, like someone had taken a hacksaw to a perfectly good pickup. Only about 3,759 were built between 1989 and 1991, and they sold about as well as you would expect a convertible truck to sell in places that actually have winter. Today, though, survivors have gained serious cult status among collectors who appreciate their sheer oddity. Number 13. The Dodge Rampage. Imagine a Dodge Omni. Now imagine someone took a saw to the back of it and bolted on a truck bed. That is essentially the Dodge Rampage, introduced in 1982. It was a front-wheel drive, unibody compact pickup based on Chrysler's L-body platform, the same bones underneath the sporty OmniZero 24. Power came from a 2.2-liter four-cylinder, producing somewhere around 84 to 99 horsepower, depending on the year. It weighed about 2,400 pounds and could theoretically haul just over 1,000 pounds. On paper, it was a half-ton truck. In reality, it was closer to a wheelbarrow with a radio. Dodge also offered a Plymouth badge twin called the Scamp for 1983 only, which sold fewer than 3,600 units total. The Rampage lasted just 3 years before being discontinued. It was the wrong truck at the wrong time, but it has found a cult following among Mopar misfits who appreciate its underdog charm. Number 12. The Volkswagen Rabbit Pickup. If a Volkswagen Golf and a toolbox somehow had a baby, it would be the Rabbit Pickup. Known as the Caddy in Europe, this front-wheel drive oddball was based on the first-generation Golf platform and was actually built in Volkswagen's plant in Pennsylvania for the North American market. Available from 1980 to 1983, it came with a fuel-sipping four-cylinder engine and that unmistakably boxy early 80s design. It was not fast, it was not flashy, but it was cheap to run, easy to park, and oddly enjoyable to drive. Volkswagen also offered a diesel version that got incredible fuel economy, something like over 40 miles per gallon in some conditions. Over the years, the Rabbit pickup earned a devoted cult, following among VW enthusiasts and mini truck fans, especially the slammed and engine-swapped crowd who love modifying them. Clean original examples are getting harder to find now, which means prices are starting to climb for what was once one of the cheapest trucks you could buy. Number 11. The Hummer H1 Pickup. Everyone knows the Hummer H1 as a massive, boxy, military-inspired SUV. But what a lot of people forget is that AM General also offered it as a pickup truck. The H1 pickup version featured the same colossal dimensions, the same diesel engine options, and the same ability to go absolutely anywhere. But instead of enclosed rear seating, you got an open cargo bed. And when we say massive, we mean it. This thing was over 7 feet wide. Parking it was an event. Driving it through a fast food drive-thru was a logistical challenge. Fuel economy? Single digits. The H1 was originally designed for the military, so comfort and practicality for civilian life were never really priorities. The pickup version was particularly rare because most buyers opted for the enclosed body style. Finding one today is genuinely difficult, and when they do pop up, they command serious money. It is a truck that makes zero practical sense, and yet somehow remains incredibly cool. Number 10. The Toyota Tundra Scene. At the 2015 SEMA show, Toyota unveiled something that nobody saw coming, and honestly, nobody asked for. They took a regular Toyota Tundra pickup and stretched it into a limousine. The result was the Tundra Scene, an 8-door, 8-passenger megatruck that still had a cargo bed in the back. The interior was draped in plush leather, designed to mimic the cabin of a private jet. It looked like something a country music star would ride to the Grammy Awards in. The Tundra Scene was, of course, a concept vehicle, a pure showpiece meant to generate buzz and turn heads at SEMA, and it accomplished that mission spectacularly. There was never any intention of putting it into production because who exactly would buy an 8-door pickup truck limousine? But as a piece of automotive spectacle, it was brilliant. The Tundra Scene stretched the idea of what a pickup could be, quite literally, and remains one of the most outlandish truck concepts ever built. Number 9. The Subaru Baja. In 2002, Subaru looked at the growing truck market and decided to make something that was not quite a truck and not quite a car. They called it the Baja, marketed it as a multiple-choice vehicle, and hoped Americans would figure out what to do with it. Built on the Outback platform, the Baja featured Subaru's signature all-wheel drive and a small open cargo bed grafted onto the back. From the front, it looked like a regular Outback. From the side or rear, it looked like someone had taken a saw to the back half. The bed was small, the engine was underwhelming, and most buyers could not figure out who it was for. Subaru offered it through 2006 before quietly discontinuing it after consistently disappointing sales. But here is the twist. The Baja has become a genuine cult classic. Used prices have climbed steadily as people have come to appreciate its weirdness. It was the spiritual successor to the Brat, and just like the Brat, it was misunderstood in its time. Number 8. The GMC Syclone. In 1991, GMC did something absolutely insane. They took the humble Sonoma compact pickup, ripped out its standard engine, and dropped in a turbocharged 4.3-liter V6 producing 280 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. Then they added all-wheel drive, lowered the suspension, and painted the whole thing black. The result was the Syclone, a small pickup truck that could accelerate from 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds. That was faster than a Corvette, faster than a Ferrari 348. In fact, Car and Driver famously raced a Syclone against a Ferrari 348 TEs in 1991, and the pickup truck won the quarter mile. Only 2,995 were ever built, plus 3 more in 1992. The Syclone was the brainchild of a GM marketing executive named Kim Nielsen, who loved drag racing, and convinced the company to let him build a performance truck on a shoestring budget. It cost just $14 million to develop. Today, low-mileage Syclones sell for serious money at auction. Number 7. The Shelby Dakota Carroll. Shelby is famous for turning ordinary cars into legends. The Cobra, the GT350. But in 1989, he turned his attention to something nobody expected, a Dodge Dakota. The Shelby Dakota took the standard midsize pickup and gave it a 5.2-liter V8, producing 175 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers might not sound earth-shattering today, but in 1989, this was the fastest production truck you could buy in America. The truck also received a sport-tuned suspension, special Shelby badging, and a unique appearance package. It was the perfect combination of unexpected platform and legendary performance name. Only about 1,500 were produced, making it one of the rarest vehicles to ever carry the Shelby name. Most enthusiasts associate Shelby with Mustangs and Cobras, so the idea of a Shelby pickup catches people completely off guard. It is the performance truck that time forgot. Number 6. The Dodge Ram SRT-10. If the Syclone was insane, the Dodge Ram SRT-10 was certifiably unhinged. In 2004, Dodge looked at the Ram and thought, you know what this needs? The engine from a Viper. So that is exactly what they did. They crammed an 8.3-liter V10, producing 500 horsepower and 525 pound-feet of torque, into a full-size pickup truck. The first-year models came exclusively with a 6-speed manual transmission and rear-wheel drive, which meant this was essentially a Viper with a truck bed. 0 to 60 happened in under 5 seconds. The SRT-10 even briefly held the Guinness World Record for the fastest production truck. Only about 5,500 were made across its 3-year production run from 2004 to 2006. It was loud, impractical, thirsty, and absolutely glorious. The kind of truck that exists purely because someone at Dodge had a wild idea and nobody told them no. Number 5. The Dodge Lil Red Express truck. Here is a truck that literally outran the law. In 1978, strict emissions regulations were choking the life out of American performance cars. Catalytic converters, air pumps, and restrictive exhaust systems had turned former muscle cars into wheezing shadows of their former selves. But there was a loophole. Light trucks over 6,000 pounds were exempt from those regulations. Dodge exploited this by stuffing a modified 360 cubic inch V8 into the D150 and calling it the Lil Red Express. Bright red paint, wood side panels on the bed, and those iconic vertical chrome exhaust stacks rising behind the cab. This truck was faster from 0 to 100 miles per hour than any other American production vehicle that year, including the Corvette. Dodge built 2,188 in 1978 and 5,118 in 1979 before regulators closed the loophole. It was the automotive equivalent of finding a cheat code in real life. Number 4. The Lincoln Blackwood. In 2001, Lincoln looked at the luxury truck market and said, "We can do this." They could not. The Blackwood was based on the Ford F-150 crew cab, wearing the face of a Lincoln Navigator and offering an interior dripping with leather, wood trim, and premium electronics. But the bed is where things got truly strange. Instead of a normal truck bed, Lincoln carpeted it. They lined it with plush carpet, framed it in polished aluminum, and covered it with a powerlifting tonneau. You could not throw lumber in there. You could not haul mulch. You could barely use it as a truck bed at all. The split tailgate was awkward. The whole thing seemed designed for someone who wanted a truck but never wanted to actually use it as one. It was the most expensive truck Ford had ever produced at that point, and it was a spectacular failure. Only 3,383 were built for the 2002 model year before Lincoln pulled the plug. In a desperate move, remaining units were shipped to Mexico. It remains the worst-selling model in Lincoln's history. Number 3. The Chevrolet SSR. In 2003, Chevrolet tried to answer the question, what happens when you cross a 1950s hot rod with a modern convertible pickup truck? The answer was the SSR, short for Super Sport Roadster. This retro-styled beast featured a retractable hardtop, massive fenders, and a design inspired by the 1947 to 1955 advanced design pickups. Early models came with a 300 horsepower V8, but later versions got the Corvette's LS2 engine, bumping output to 390 horsepower. With that engine, the SSR could hit 60 in about 5.3 seconds, making it a legitimate performance vehicle, but it was not really a truck. The bed was tiny, the retractable roof ate into what little cargo space existed, and the price was steep. Still, Chevrolet managed to sell about 24,150 units across its 3-year run before discontinuing it in 2006. The SSR confused people. Was it a muscle car, a roadster, a truck? Nobody could quite figure it out, and that identity crisis is exactly what makes it so fascinating today. Number 2. The Lamborghini LM002. Before the Urus, before the idea of a luxury SUV was mainstream, Lamborghini built the LM002. And it was not an SUV, it was a pickup truck. Originally developed as a military vehicle in the mid-1970s, the project went through 2 failed prototypes before Lamborghini hit on the winning formula. Take the 5.2-liter V12 from the legendary Countach, mount it in the front, and wrap it in a massive brutish body with a usable cargo area in the back. The Rambo Lambo debuted at the 1986 Brussels Auto Show and immediately became one of the most outrageous vehicles on the planet. It had 6 Weber carburetors, specially commissioned Pirelli tires, a 76-gallon fuel tank, and 3 locking differentials. The civilian version came with full leather trim, air conditioning, and a premium stereo. For buyers who thought 444 horsepower was not enough, Lamborghini offered an optional 7.2-liter Marine V12 from a racing boat. Only 301 were ever built. Tina Turner owned one. Sylvester Stallone owned one. Even Saddam Hussein's son owned one. At over $100,000 in the late 80s, tires alone cost $5,000 each to replace. It was excess in its purest, most beautiful form. Number 1. The Subaru BRAT. And at number 1, we have arguably the strangest, most beloved, and most cleverly engineered oddball pickup truck of all time, the Subaru BRAT. The name stands for Bi-Drive Recreational All-Terrain Transporter, and it was born out of pure, beautiful stubbornness. In 1978, Subaru wanted to sell small pickup trucks in America, but faced a crushing 25% import tariff on light trucks, a relic of the 1960s trade war known as the chicken tax. Subaru's solution? They took their Leon wagon, chopped off the back, added a cargo bed, and then bolted 2 rear-facing plastic jump seats into the bed, complete with seat belts. With 4 seats, the BRAT was legally classified as a passenger car, subject to only a 2.5% tariff. It was genius. The jump seats were hilariously unsafe, basically lawn chairs bolted to a truck bed, but they served their purpose. The BRAT came with all-wheel drive, a tiny flat-4 engine producing about 67 horsepower and more personality than trucks 10 times its size. President Ronald Reagan owned one on his California ranch. It earned a cult following among people who did not want a traditional American truck. The bed-mounted seats were eventually deemed unsafe and discontinued after 1985, which also closed the tax loophole. Production for the U.S. ended in 1987, though the BRAT lived on in other markets as the Brumby until 1994. Today, clean examples are increasingly rare and increasingly expensive, and recently Hoonigan built a modified BRAT called the Brataroo 9500 Turbo with 670 horsepower and the ability to rev to 9,500 RPM. A fitting tribute to one of the most wonderfully weird trucks ever made, and there you have it. 25 of the strangest pickup trucks of all time, trucks that most people have completely forgotten. From convertible Dakotas to Lamborghini off-roaders to a Subaru with lawn chairs in the bed, these are the trucks that broke every rule in the book and looked amazing doing it. Which of these did you actually remember? And which one blew your mind? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip through automotive weirdness, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you do not miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.